Hi, boys and girls. I'm going to do chapter 2 for the Ellie story today. Jacob scooped me up and carried me out of the yard. I was amazed. Outside was bigger than I had ever thought. It went on forever. In front of the house, big, loud things zoomed past, smelling of metal and smoke and other sharp and unpleasant odors. I had no idea what these things were, but I was pretty sure they were dangerous. Jacob opened the back of one, and I squirmed against his chest and whimpered. "It's okay, girl," Jacob said. "Just a quick ride in the truck. Don't worry about it, okay? Just a truck." Truck. His tones were soothing, but I was plenty worried. I didn't want to go anywhere in anything that smelled like this. There was something like a box, only it was made out of metal, in the back of the truck. Jacob opened it with one hand and with the other dumped me gently inside. Then he left me. He left me. This was not right. I was sure about it. Of course I didn't like the idea of being taken away from my mother and brothers and sisters, but something told me that it was the way things had to be. Dogs were supposed to be with people. Jacob was going to be my family now. But that meant Jacob was supposed to be with me. He wasn't supposed to go far away and leave me in the cold metal box in the back of a loud, smelly truck. I barked. I whimpered. I did everything I could to let Jacob know that he had made a mistake and he was supposed to come back. But he must not have heard me because he didn't show up to take me out of the box. I heard a loud thump, and then the metal box started to shake, and we were moving. It was just like being carried in a box out into the yard, my body rocking back and forth. I really didn't like this. The truck growled and roared, and I was pretty sure it was going to eat me. Where was Jacob? My frantic barking must have gotten through to him at last because he came back and took me out of the cage when the truck finally stopped moving. "Not too bad, huh, girl?" he said to me. He seemed awfully cheerful after what we'd just been through together. Still, I was so grateful that he had returned that I didn't hold a grudge. I just rested against his chest as he carried me up several flights of stairs and into my new home. There was a lot to explore, a kitchen with fascinating smells and little doors that I couldn't open, even when I pawed at them. A living room with a couch that smelled like Jacob and a box that made noise sometimes. A baloney where I could sit with Jacob and look over houses and yards and trees and more zooming, loud things like the truck. There was a bedroom with a big bed that smelled like Jacob too. I tried to climb up on it the first day, but Jacob firmly dumped me off. "No, girl, this is not your bed. This is your bed," he said, and showed me a soft, furry circle on the floor. It felt like a little like a blanket I used to sleep on with mother and my litter mates, but it didn't smell like them. It smelled empty and cold. What I liked best, though, was the park. Jacob took me there more than once that first day. There was more of the springy grass that was fun to run around on, and Jacob tossed some sticks for me to pounce on and bring back. And then he pulled a little round thing from his pocket and he threw it for me. I chased it down and tried to get my tiny mouth around it. Then a little animal darted past, shaking a strangely fuzzy tail. I dropped the ball immediately and dashed after it. This was much more fun. Obviously, the animal was made for chasing. It zigged and zagged across the grass and headed for a tree. To my astonishment, it went straight up the trunk. I tried it myself and fell over on my back. The animal sat on a high branch and laughed at me as I ran around the trunk, yapping in frustration. Why wouldn't my paws take me up? The little animal had done it so easily. Jacob came to sit beside me and scratched behind my ears. "Don't give up, girl," he told me. "Never give up." Now I can't keep calling you girl, Alea. I wondered what he was talking about. "It's Swedish for moose. You're a Swedish shepherd now." I knew he was talking to me, so I wagged, even though his words made no real sense. "Alea, Alea," he said, and he moved a little away from me. "Come, Ellie, come." Pretty soon I started to recognize that word, "come." It was one of Jacob's favorites. When he said it, I'd sometimes wander over to see what was going on, and he'd pet me and give me something tasty from his hand. Come meant praise and petting and a treat, so pretty soon I always showed up for it. But my favorite words from him were, good dog, good dog. Always meant he would pet me, rubbing my fur until I wriggled from my toes to my tail with happiness. His hands smelled of oil and his truck and of papers and of other people. Jacob never seemed to get angry about anything, even when my little bladder signaled that it was full and let go all in one rush. When I did manage to get outside before anything happened, he gave me praise. He gave me such praise that I decided I'd try to do it as much as possible since it seemed to please him so much. I wanted to make Jacob happy. I just wasn't sure how. He was patient with me always. He petted me and called me good dog and seemed to like having me nearby. But I could tell that he wasn't happy. When he wasn't taking me out on walks, he mostly sat on the couch. Sometimes he'd turn on the talking backs. Sometimes he just sat or lay down flat, looked at the ceiling. If I went over and nuzzled at his hand, he'd rub my ears a little, but never for long. I would sigh and lie down beside him. I thought he'd probably feel better if he let me up on the couch with him. So would I. But I'd learned that wasn't going to happen. On our first night together, Jacob had watched the noisy box for a while, and then he'd yawned and wandered into the bedroom. I'd followed him. After he'd undressed, he'd crawled under the covers on the bed. It looked so comfortable that I immediately went up after him. It was all I could do to leap so high, so I figured I was due for some praising and maybe a treat. Instead, he got out of bed, put me back onto the furry circle on the floor. This is your bed, he told me. Yours, Ellie. And he climbed back into the big bed. I could see he didn't want me to join him up there, but I couldn't understand why. He had so much room. My bed was comfortable, but it was lonely. I was used to sleeping with Mother and my brothers and my sisters. This was not at all the same. I whimpered to let Jacob know something was wrong. You'll get used to it, Ellie, I heard him say from the big bed. We all have to get used to being alone. Aw. After some time, I got used to it, but that didn't mean I liked it. I still tried to sneak under Jacob's covers every now and then. He never shouted or pushed me, but he never let me stay. In a few minutes, I'd be back in my own bed. After a while, I decided it was less trouble just to stay there. For a few days, Jacob was home with me all the time. Then one morning, he got dressed in different clothes. Everything he wore was a dark color, and he pulled on a heavy belt with things hanging from it. Gotta go to work, Ellie girl, he told me. Don't worry, I'll be home soon. And then he left. This did not seem right. I hadn't liked it when Jacob had left me alone in the truck, but he had come back. I remembered that. He'd come back this time, too. I settled in to wait. Waiting was very hard. I lay in my bed for a while, but then I nosed my way under Jacob's blankets. They smelled like him, and that was comforting. But after a while, I got restless and went to the living room so I could look out of the glass door that led to the balcony. Maybe I'd see Jacob from there. I didn't. I sniffed the couch cushions. They smelled like Jacob. I chewed a little on one of the rubber bones that he'd gotten me. It was odd to chew on something with so little taste, but my teeth wanted to gnaw something. And Jacob said, "Good dog," when I bit this. So I chewed it and waited some more. Jacob still hadn't come back. Maybe this time he'd really forgotten me. Or maybe something had happened to him. Maybe he was hurt and couldn't come back to get me. Maybe he needed me. How could I get to him, shut up in the house like this? I paced back and forth in front of the door, whining. And then the lock made a clicking noise. I jumped back. The door swung open. Jacob! He'd come back. Oh, hello there, sweetie, cooed a voice. It wasn't Jacob, not at all. It was a woman. She came in as if she belonged here and sat right down on the floor, putting out her hand to me. There, sweetie, don't worry. I'm Georgia. I'm here to take you out. Oh, aren't you cute? Aren't you the cutest little thing? You're Ellie, right? You're Ellie Welly, coodle-coo. Come here, Ellie, sweetie. Come to Georgia. I knew the word come. Was this woman like Jacob? Did she want me to move closer to her? I did it, and she petted and praised me. Good girl, Ellie, good girl. And she clipped the leash onto my collar and took me outside to the park. I decided I liked Georgia very much. She laughed when I chased the small fuzzy animals, and she petted me a lot, rubbing her hands through my fur, talking to me in a stream of words. None of it made any sense except for Ellie and come. But I liked hearing her anyway. She was happy to see me, she was happy to be with me, and she was happy in a way Jacob never was. But then Georgia left too. She brought me back to the apartment, petted me, checked that I had water in my bowl, kissed me between my ears — Jacob definitely never did that — and went out the door. These people, why didn't they understand the dog was supposed to be with humans, not left behind in an apartment, not chewing on a tasteless rubber bone? I tried to sleep, tried to chew my bone, but mostly paced around, whining a little in frustration until the door creaked open again, and Georgia came back to take me out once more. Finally, when I thought I could stand it no longer, Jacob came home. I ran to him and got so excited I jumped up on my back legs. Off, he said sternly, and pushed me back to the floor. Of all the words I'd heard so far, off was my least favorite. But then he petted me and rubbed my ears, sighed at a puddle on the floor, and took me outside to the park and brought me back to feed me dinner. After that, he went to sleep in the big bed while I curled up alone in my little one. That was the way things went until we started work. Let's go to work, Jacob said one day. I was a bit older then, and Georgia had started coming only once a day to walk me while Jacob was gone. Jacob seemed as calm as ever, but I could tell there was something extra under the calmness, some kind of excitement. Work must be something important. At first, work was just more words. I was already pretty good at come. Now Jacob took me to the park and taught me drop, which meant to lie down and stay. That was a hard one. I would drop and then Jacob would walk away from me, as if he'd forgotten again that it was my job to be near him. But I had to stay with my belly in the grass until I heard come, and then I bounded after him. It took me a while, but I got good at stay. I could tell that Jacob was pleased, and I was glad. Jacob didn't love me the way Georgia did. It didn't make him happy just to see me, but it did make him happy when we did work together. So I decided there and then to be very, very good at work. If it made Jacob even a little bit happy, it was what I should be doing. But I still love the times when Georgia would come to see me and call me Ellie, Welly, Cuddle Coo. After I'd gotten good at my words, work changed. Jacob took me to a new place. There were lots of trees and plenty of those distracting little animals. I knew now that they were called squirrels. But I did my best to stay near Jacob, waiting patiently until he showed me what kind of work he wanted me to do. A man got out of the car a little way away and walked over to us, waving, "Hey there, Jacob!" And he called out cheerfully. "Wally," Jacob said, nodding. "Is this the new dog?" "This is Ellie." Wally bent down to pet me. "You're a big girl, Ellie, huh? You going to be good at this?" "I think she will," Jacob said quietly. "Let's see." Wally did something odd then. He ran away. "What's he doing, Ellie? Where's he going?" Jacob asked. I watched Wally, who was looking over his shoulder at me. "Find him! Find!" Jacob told me. I could tell from his voice that this was a new word he wanted me to learn, but I wasn't sure what I should do. Something to do with Wally. There was Wally over there, waving excitedly. I started toward him. Was this right? Was it what Jacob wanted me to do? Wally saw me coming and dropped down to his hands and knees, clapping and smiling. And when I caught up to him, he showed me a stick. I love sticks. I grabbed it right away, and Wally hung on so that we could have an excellent game of tug. This was fun, much better than drop and stay. And then Wally got up, brushed off his knees. "Look, Ellie, what's he doing?" "Find him," Wally said. I looked around. Didn't find mean I should go to Wally? But I was right next to Wally. What was I supposed to do? Jacob was strolling off, so I ran after him. I'd always rather be near Jacob anyway. Good dog, Jacob told me, and I played with a stick too. My tail thrashed with happiness. Honestly, I thought the game of find was a little dull, but Wally and Jacob seemed to like it, so we played more of it that afternoon. I was willing to do it for Jacob, especially if it meant I got to play tug on a stick. That, to me, beat Find Wally, hands down. I was doing work and doing it right. Jacob had called me a good dog. This game of find was important to him, so I would try my best to learn it. I wanted to be a good dog for Jacob. I even dreamed about finding Wally. They were happy dreams. Sometimes, though, I would dream a bad dream about a boy named Ethan. In the dream, Ethan was swimming in a cool green water, and then suddenly he would slip beneath the surface. Fear would grip me as I watched him go down until, with a cry, I would lower my head and plunge after him, eyes and mouth open, straining to reach the boy who kept sinking just out of reach. When I awoke from this dream, I was often panting and would wander the house sniffing. The dream felt real, meaning it felt as if it had really happened. Why did I keep having that dream? Okay. Why do you think he kept having that dream? I have my ideas. What are yours? Let me know. Talk to you later. Bye.